Almost since the day of its release, fans wanted a sequel to the action RPG Bloodborne from Software. No, that's not me saying From twice, that is actually their name, From Software. While they developed many games during their 20 plus years history, their most famous games are Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne, and maybe some Monster Hunter spin-offs, which I didn't even know about before this video. But Monster Hunter is a well-known franchise and they developed games for it, so I guess that counts. And you know, they're just one of these older Japanese gaming studios that have been around since the early PlayStation days. Now that E3 is right around the corner, is a time again where fans get their hopes up for a bunch of new exciting announcements, like for example Bloodborne 2 by From Software. Well, I'm here today to save you from building up hope for a Bloodborne 2 announcement at this year's E3. In my opinion, there's good reason it won't happen, at least not this year, and that reason revolves around one of their older games from over a decade ago. So let's jump right in and find out what this is all about. Alright, first off, to understand my reasoning for Bloodborne 2 not being announced at this year's E3, we got to take a look back at one of their older titles. Way before Dark Souls and even 5 years before Demon Souls was released, there was a game developed by From Software called Kuon for the PlayStation 2. I'm not quite sure if Kuon is the right way to pronounce it, but I think it's the Japanese word for eternity or something like that. So for the purpose of this video, I'll just pronounce it Kuon like I always did. Correct me in the comments though if that's the wrong pronunciation. Kuon was a horror survival game that released back in 2004 for the PlayStation 2, like I already said. And it is based on an ancient type of Japanese horror story called Kaidan? I totally like trying to pronounce all these Japanese words without actually knowing Japanese. The game is set in a mansion in Kyoto during the Heian period of Japan, so around the year 1000 AD plus minus a couple of decades. Seems like a pretty unique setting to me for a horror game released over a decade ago. In case you were wondering what Kwaidan or Kaidan or however you pronounce it means, it is basically just a general term for ghost stories from around that time in history. It literally just translates to mysterious talk. So right now you might be wondering, why am I talking about this obscure 2004 horror game? Well, I'll tell you in a second, but first let's talk about what the game is actually about to understand it better. The story of the game itself revolves around strange incidents occurring in and outside of the mansion and is told in 3 parts, with each part having a different protagonist. The first character is a shrine maiden coming to the manor with her sister to find their father, a famous exorcist. Then we have a few of the father's students coming to the house in order to try and figure out where their exorcism teacher went. And the last playable character is a master exorcist who enters the manor last. Now what I always thought was cool about the game is that the first 2 groups basically enter at the same time, just through different parts of the manor. So you will cross parts with them, and as the game progresses, you will get a look at events from different angles, which might reveal something you weren't aware of before. I also really dig the feudal Japanese manor setting, and it's definitely a hidden gem for the PlayStation 2. Now let's get to the reason I'm quite sure that Bloodborne 2 is not gonna be announced at this year's E3, and I'm even gonna take this a step further and say there's not gonna be a Dark Souls 4 either, or a Demon Souls 2. Now, during the Game Awards last year, there was an announcement and a short teaser for a game. In the teaser, you can see some sort of bone artifact, and in the background you actually see Japanese letters carved into wood. At the end of the clip, you can also see the words "Shadows Die Twice," but I don't think that is the name of the game. I think that's just a statement the way it's written. Now you might already be able to guess where I'm going with this, but now a few days ago there was a supposed leak revealing what the studio has been working on leading up to now. While the post itself is written really vague and it's not a full-fledged leak, it basically explains that their newest project won't have skill trees, that the story revolves around an ancient cult that will sacrifice people in their shrine of blood to cause the end of the world. And now what I find most compelling part about this leak is that it allegedly is going to be set in ancient Japan, just like Kuon was. Now there's a good chance that this new project is either an actual sequel or a spiritual successor to Kuon. So this year's announcement might actually be more surprising than a Bloodborne 2 would have been. It seems like the studio is going back to the survival horror genre, which I think is pretty awesome, and since I really enjoyed their work back when they were a smaller studio in 2004, I wonder what they can come up with all the resources they have now. Of course, as always, there's nothing confirmed and this all is technically just speculation. We will most likely have to wait a few more days for confirmation of From Software's newest title. But what are your thoughts on this? Would you play a horror game made by From Software, or would you rather have them announce a Bloodborne 2 sequel at E3? Whatever your opinion is, make sure to leave it down in the comments below. We appreciate and read every comment we get. Also make sure to subscribe to Rocket's Love and make sure to smash that little bell icon, cause that's apparently what you need nowadays to see all the content from the channels you subscribe to, since the subscribe button apparently doesn't work like it used to be. Also don't forget that you can support us on Patreon if you feel like it under www.rocketslove.net. That's it for this video though, see you guys next time.